Good evening, folks. How you guys doing? Thanks for being here. Good evening. Welcome to the Army List Show. I just said to myself last week I was going to make this show start 5 minutes later because I keep running late. Sorry about that. And guess what? I completely forgot and set it for 9:30 again. So on Sunday night, expect me to be 5 minutes late. I'm going to start setting it for 9:35. I have failed at life. But yeah, thank you for hanging out anyway. And oh, thanks for following, Scotty. That was a quick follow. Mike, Jacob, Harry, Dirty Wizard, good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it, as always. And, yeah, I'm just making sure I can see everything good on my screen. Second. Cool. Alright, I think we're good. We are live. It was saying that my internet was slow. I did do a speed test just as I started up the stream, and it seems okay. But if it breaks up or anything like that, I don't think there's much I can do. But I did check the internet. Good evening, Michael. So tonight we got 3 army lists to get into. We got one from Florian, we got one from Sam Milliber, we got one from Robbie Murdoch, and then next week is Ian Heingartnet, Slim Hogan, and Outdoor Corey. So, continuing, as always, to look at Blood Angels army lists. These are submitted by yourselves, the community, and you can do that over on the community tab. Maybe you should try start time at 9:25. No, the start time needs to be 9:35. And literally right as I was starting tonight, good evening, Helen Phoenix, not seen you in a little while, hope you're well. Right as I was starting, my daughter woke up and, sometimes she'll go back to sleep straight away, other times she's like, no chance. Time, so. Cool. Alright, let me just set Do Not Disturb on my watch, because otherwise chat, honestly. Okay, hello from Canada. Good evening, Slim Hogan. You are up next week for Army List Review. So, okay, we're going to start with, I think we'll start with Florian. And, good evening, John. Was a great weekend for GT. My boys Red went 3 wins, 2 losses. Congratulations. I mean, that's a pretty good result at the moment. It's difficult, I think. Difficult space to be in playing Blood Angels right now. There's a lot of really nasty stuff in the meta. Last 3 codexes have been crazy strong. Tau, Custodes, Eldar. And I guess what's up next is Tyranids, and I think they're going to be bloody strong as well. So 3 and 2 is pretty respectable. Congrats, Chris. What did you lose up against? Good evening, Toasty. How you doing? And I don't miss those first few months. You don't know how long the kid's gonna. It's like 45 minutes. It's like one sleep cycle. They sleep. They need resettled. Okay. Alright, I already have a review for. Yeah, so this was an updated list from Florian. As written in my first post, I'm coming from Blood Angels Primaris only, but sadly that's really hard to win. Limit yourself with unit choices, so now there will be Firstborn. Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. People always ask me if they can make like a Primaris only force or a Firstborn only force, and I just make it's already going to be difficult for Blood Angels to get wins at the moment, so that just makes it so harder, so I would avoid that for now. Okay. Starting with a battalion detachment on 9 CP. 9 CP is a really decent amount to start with. We get the Chapter Master on the bike, with Artisan of War, gives you Foresight, Adamantium Mantle, so 3 sort of staples there that make him very survivable. Armor Indominus, Infernal Pistol. I love this Captain on a bike. You talk about him all day, but he appears in a lot of lists. We then have the Primaris Tech Marine with Soul Warden and Quake Bolts, which is a way. I was using my Tech Marine in this exact loadout for the last. So I'm very familiar with this. Both these HQs and also these troop choices as well. Exact same as what I'm running currently. Assault Intercessors, 2 squads of Incursors. And the Incursors are brilliant with a forward deployment, and the Assault Intercessors have they're the cheapest Primaris models you can field in terms of troop at 19 points per model, so they're a good option in terms of the points cost. The one thing to say about Assault Intercessors and Incursors is with the new Eldar release, I think Infiltrators may actually be starting to we may see more infiltrators. Infiltrators may be strong against Eldar's deep strike shenanigans through that new webway gate. What do I think of Outriders? I've actually done a video on Outriders, Justin. I think they're overcosted for Blood Angels. I would avoid them. I think Vanguard vets do basically the same thing and are better. They do more damage. They're probably more survivable because the Storm Shield is that same. Lost to Custodes and Aldari. I mean, that's fair enough, Chris. Congrats on the wins, though. I really want to watch a Blood Angels versus Blood Angels game. Do you know what? The only way you could do a Blood Angels game versus Blood Angels game, I guess, is if, because no one else that I know locally plays Blood Angels, would be for me to just build 2 armies. Could be interesting, I guess. Alright, we got Elites, 4 Blade Guard veterans. We got Death Company. We got a small squad here. Jump packs, Thunderhammers, and Infernal Pistols. That seems pretty cheap, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess the Death Company went down 10 points. So 3 Infernal Pistols and Thunderhammer in the Death Company. I'm trying to think if... Is 2 Thunderhammers better than 1 Hammer and 3 Infernal Pistols? I think probably. Infernal Pistols to me on the Death Company. I feel like you're going to struggle maybe to get them in range, unless you're Forlorn Furying them, maybe. I don't think 3 Infernal Pistols is better than a Thunderhammer. I just think you're more likely to end up being able to make attacks with Thunderhammer over the Infernal Pistols. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I'm sure it just feels like when I run Infernal Pistols in my Sanguinary Guard or my Vanguard Veterans, it usually feels like once per game, maybe twice per game if you're lucky they can shoot their Infernal Pistol. So, yeah, you maybe can shoot them when you Forlorn Fury, but beyond that, maybe not so much. We then have 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, and both have, I guess, underslung Onslaught cannons, but then one's Macro Plasma, one's a Heavy Onslaught, and Stormbolters and Frag Storms and Icarus Rocket Buds. I kind of, excuse me, this damn cough. I don't cough if I'm not speaking at the moment, but I guess when I'm speaking, coughing. Frag Storms, thank you so much. Oh, Podcar, becoming a member for the first time. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Frag Storms very rarely get more shots than the Stormbolters, and you can't shoot them if you're in combat. So, like, I don't really rate the Frag Storms over the Stormbolter. They're the same cost. I also don't really love the Heavy Onslaught Cannon. I don't run that Heavy Onslaught Cannon because I did some maths on it against, like, the Macro Plasma, and there's very few situations that the Heavy Onslaught Cannon is better than the Plasma. It's Heavy 12, Strength 6, -1 damage. So you're hitting 8 times. I guess like against Toughness 4 or something, or Toughness 5, you're wounding about 5 times for 1 damage. So if you were gonna... I guess the thing is, if you're ever gonna shoot against like big enemy units, the blast of the Plasma will kind of keep it up in the fact that it's much higher strength, much higher EP, double the damage or triple the damage. Me, I don't rate the Onslaught Cannon, the Heavy Onslaught Cannon against the Macro Plasma. I think if you're going to go Redemptors, you're better just always taking the Macro Plasma. Maybe there's some sort of edge case, like, I guess maybe like a Drukhari Raider, that the Heavy Onslaught Cannon could be slightly ahead against. But for most of the time, the Macro's just going to be. And if you talk about cleaning screens, David, the thing about the Macro Plasma is it's gonna be -4, so if there's anything screen wise, it's just gonna delete them, whereas -1 is possibly just gonna let them have a cover save. My Infernal Pistols seriously do some damage, heavy lifting a lot of my games. I have 6 on the list, 2 per squad and 3 squads. They often kill 500 points for like 30 points invested. Chris, what do you put your Infernal Pistols on? Sanguinary Guards or Death Company or what? I would love it if 6 Infernal Pistols killed 500 points of stuff every game. That just doesn't happen in my meta. We then have a squad of Sangre Guard, and it's 2, 4, 6, 7, all with axes. We have a squad of Terminators with the Thunderhammers and the Lightning Claws, Talbot Homer, Bolter Inceptors, a Land Speeder with a multi-melta, and then Eradicators with those regular melta rifles, but I guess one has multi-melta. And the Sergeant have the multi-melta and Eradicator squad. This is just a random thought. I don't suppose it makes any difference at the one point of leadership, but is it just one Eradicator's metal rifle or a heavy rifle can replace with one multi-melta? Okay, so, I mean, I guess you could have the Sergeant have the multi-melta, but I guess it really very little difference. Okay. I do like the multi-melta on an Eradicator squad just for the total obliteration rule, right? Like, that is one of the coolest things about it, is like, if you do stick on one target, you get double the number of shots. So I like Eradicators in that sense. We don't see Eradicators too often as Blood Angels players, but one of the tournament lists that won like 2 tournaments early in the year, and Blood Angels only won like 4 GTs in the entirety of last year. One of the lists was it was 2 squads of Eradicators in both lists. So Eradicators, while they may not be optimal for Blood Angels, they can certainly do a lot of damage. 2 per squad in Sangre Guards and 2 in my Death Company. I always seem to roll 1s and 2s for them out of Plasma Shot Redemptor. Yeah, I mean, I feel like with a Redemptor, you need to have 2 of them, right? Like, if you only have 1 Redemptor with 1 Plasma, then if you roll a 1, you're screwed. I guess if you have 2 and you have 2 Plasmas, then you at least give yourself a little bit more reliability. And I guess, you know, occasionally your Redemptor will get some benefit out the blast. You know, so, like, imagine you're shooting a squad of 6 guys with your Redemptor. You're going to get blasts, so I guess what that means is with the macro plasma, you're going to get 3 to 6 shots, whereas with so if you took the average of that, or even the low average, say 4, you could potentially do 12 damage. Well, that 12 damage is the same amount of damage you could with the Onslaught Cannon. So at that point, are you not just always better taking plasma because the plasma's on a much higher AP? I have 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, and I ripped the arms off a bunch of them to get rid of the Onslaught Cannons, because they just always felt like they underperformed. I mean, one way to look at the heavy Onslaught Cannons is like, they're kind of like a Twin Assault Cannon, right? No one fucking runs Twin Assault Cannons right now. Like, no competitive army, period, runs Twin Assault Cannons on anything. I can't think of a single thing that you know, like, Dreadnoughts can take Assault Cannons, you don't see them. Ball Predators, Razorbacks can take Twin Assault Cannons, you don't see them. You can get, like, Flyers that can take the Twin Assault Cannons, don't see them. So, like, Twin Assault Cannons just aren't that exciting. Strength 6 -1, 1 damage. Yeah, I just don't think they're exciting. And then, while, yeah, maybe they clear like an extra model or something in a screen, they've got no versatility, whereas the Plasma has versatility. When was the last time you saw a Chicken Dreadnought? I mean, I've run Chicken Dreadnoughts myself occasionally. I think I played against a Dark Angels player that had a couple of Chicken Dreadnoughts with like missile launchers and double las cannons. I saw them in Iron Hands at the beginning of 9th. I guess like the only Chicken Dreadnought I've run is the Blood Angels Librarian Dreadnought. While he is a Chicken Dreadnought, he's not really your standard Chicken Dreadnought. Assault Cannons used to be good, yeah. They aren't so much anymore. I guess I don't like either primary weapon on the Redemptor. That's fair. I mean, that's one of the big weaknesses of Redemptor's plasma gun is the number of shots being random, right? And that's why I really don't think, well, the fact that the Redemptor The number of shots is random, and they don't have an invulnerable save, or like two massive weaknesses, and they put it up like to 195 points. I don't like the Redemptors at all now at 195 points. I think they used to be 180, and even then at 180, I was like, yeah, they got these two weaknesses that you can kind of play around because they're only 180 points, but at 195 points, I'm like, oh, no chance. I've dropped the Redemptors, and what's really annoying, like I said, I get 3 of them. Have I got 3 of them, or I've got 4 of them? Yeah, I think I've got 3 of them. I only finished painting them up, like, end of last year, I would say. Okay. So, this is a battalion, 3 troop choices, Tech Marine and Chapter Master, Blade Guard, Death Company, Sanguinary Guard, Terminators, Scepters, Landspeeder, Eradicators. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of interesting tools here. 3 damage weapons wise, we got like the Eradicators that gives us 3, the Landspeeder that gives us 4, we get 3 Thunderhammers here giving us 7, we get the 2 Dreadnoughts each having 2, that gives us 11, Thunderhammer we get 15, and then the Chapter Master and the Tech Marine. So this list's got like 17, 18 3 damage weapons, which is, 15 or more is in a really solid point if you kill things. Long live the Relic Contemptors. Yeah, the Relic Contemptors are good now as well. How do you feel about a Lieutenant in Phobos armor for Quake Bolts? Do you feel good ballistic skill? I like Quake Bolts on any character that's got ballistic. Eliminators, Tech Marines, thing. I think Quake Bolts is quite a powerful ability used or comboed with the right unit. And are there rumours about a close combat Redemptor coming? But there's also rumours about a 2.0 Space Marine release, but like I don't know anything, just rumours at this point. So, excuse me. Alright, double Redemptor with a Tech Marine, it makes sense. It gives you sort of like I guess it gives you like something that can take a lot of firepower and like focus your enemy. I think if you run double Redemptor and a Tech Marine, there's one of 2 ways the game can go. The game can go that the enemy needs to focus those things down, and your jump units can take over the game, or vice versa. They completely ignore the Redemptors, and at the end of the game, goes Redemptors alive, killing things sort of indiscriminately. Redemptors with Quake Bolts are really nasty. Would you recommend Tabletop Simulator to test the list? I mean, you could test it in Tabletop Simulator. I don't use Tabletop Simulator. I don't like. I want to play on the. I want to play with the actual models and stuff. Like, I'm not a fan of Tabletop. But I mean, I know a lot of people like it, and if I want to play a video game, I'll just play a video game, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Alright. Trying to think what I would change. I like the Inceptors, I like the Bolter Inceptors, arrive, perform an action, shoot. I like the Land Speeder because it gives you potential engage on all fronts. I like the Eradicators, decent amount of multi-melifier. The Terminators I've talked about this week being like one of my MVP units recently. Sanguinary Guard, decent. The Death Company, I guess the Infernal Pistols in chat are telling me that they're good. Blade Guard Veteran at 4-man for 10 power level. I guess in this list you could maybe like reserve the Blade Guard Veteran, Assault Intercessors, and like Landspeeder for 2 CP, or you could just reserve the Assault Intercessors and Landspeeder for like 1 CP. Interesting. I've struggled with Blade Guards. Like, I think Blade Guard are a decent unit. You get more attacks per model, or more attacks in the squad for the equivalent number of Sanguinary Guard. Kind of a lot more survivable than Sanguinary Guard for only points. Just the fact they don't jump lets them down. Taking some time off work and managed to play 20 games in the last month. It really helped me decide my list. Wow, 20 games in a month, that's serious going. I'm lucky if I get to play 20 games in a year, man. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do some scoring and then come back to what I think about this. Struggling to find much negative to say. Right, OBSEC is like 8.5, 3 OBSEC units. Anti-infantry horde, I guess, like, let's just say for a point of contention, the Redemptor with a heavy onslaught is slightly better against horde-based models in terms of shooting. We get Sanguinary Guard for shooting, we got another Redemptor. We got Eradicators, we got Inceptors, so our anti-horde firepower is actually pretty good in this list. I'd say it's probably a 9. Anti-vehicle monster with like 17 damage weapons is probably like a 9.5. Mobility, so Eradicators aren't immobile. There are your Dreadnoughts, neither are the Blade Guard, neither is your Tech Marine, but not horrible, so maybe like an 8. And then we don't have Fight Last, we don't have Denies, we've got units for actions, we've got 3 damage weapons, we've got a decent amount of C, I think it was 9, so you could possibly even spend a C or 2 here. That's something we could talk about. And then we've got protection against the mortal wounds around the Tech Marine. So overall, I guess Fight Last, Denies, yeah, maybe like an 8.5. Yeah, I think it's actually quite a high-scoring list, and it's not a million miles from. It's not a million miles from some of the tournament lists that we've seen do well with Blood Angels. Like, it's going to be more difficult now. That yeah, I mean, my problem with the Blade Guard veterans, Chris, is that I often end up playing transhuman on them, and they often still end up dying or taking so much losses that I feel like the transhuman wasted. And I ran Blade Guard veterans from pretty much the beginning. As soon as I had them made and painted from the Dominus box, I ran them right the way through to like November last year. It's only in like November last year that I stopped running Blade Guard. And you know, I didn't even stop in November. I actually stopped after that because I forgot that I ran them in a tournament in November. But what happened in that tournament is they got eaten up alive as well. Probably only in the last 2 months that I've actually given up on the Blade Guard. I forgot they were in that tournament list. The reason I forgot they're in the tournament list is because I have them front and center trying to get across the board, and they get eaten up. I had actually had the entire squad of Blade Guard veterans got taken out by they got taken out turn 1 by like a 20-man blob of AdMech Vanguard or whatever it was, you know, like 60 shots, 60 strength 3 shots with I think no AP, but like auto wounding and all that nonsense. There must have been some AP. Maybe he was able to like buff it to my. But yeah, I lost them in turn 1 in the tournament, and I think they were actually in cover as well. Yeah, it must have been auto wounding on those vanguards and everything. Blade Guard veterans can hang on a lot. You're right, Mike. They're an interesting unit. I think they're a good unit. I think just using them right is something that is important. Knowing when and when not to play transhuman, and yeah, I mean I like them. I'm just not running them. I'll probably come back to them. You know, if I actually really liked running the Blade Guard when I was also running Centurions, because you know Centurions and Blade Guard together in the middle of the board, although it's slow, it was so scary for enemies. But yeah, I've kind of moved away from Blade Guard and replaced them with Vanguard veterans in the list. Okay, excuse me. Right, 43.5. I think this is a strong list. I'm trying to think what weaknesses is there. I think one of the cool things you could do in this list is you could mastercraft there a Blade Guard veteran sword or a Terminator's Thunderhammer. The sergeant, obviously, because he's got the extra attack. So you could make the Blade Guard veteran have a 3 damage sword and maybe fixes some of the issues we have when the Blade Guard fight -1 damage enemies. Or you could make the Thunderhammer 4 damage. That could be kind of cool. You know what? That's a random thought that we don't ever see. Could you, someone, you know what I was saying earlier about like the Radicator Sergeant could have the multi-melta, right? There's nothing that says the Radicator Sergeant can't have the multi-melta. It just says for every 3 models, one Eradicator's melta rifle can be replaced with one multi-melta. Oh, I guess. Yeah, maybe that means like one of these guys Eradicators. Interesting, because I was thinking you could mastercraft the Sergeant's gun. I mean, I guess you could still mastercraft his melt rifle to make it D6+1. A mastercrafted gun could be interesting here. I feel a little bit sad that these Redemptors have no access to an invulnerable save. Sometimes an invulnerable save can really help the Redemptors out, but there's nothing you can do. You know, another thing that's a little bit sad is Redemptors don't get smoke screen. So, you know, being that Redemptors are only like 20, 25 points less than a Leviathan now, like, the Leviathan's main cannon, the Grav cannon, is more reliable than the Redemptor, because while the Redemptor's plasma is like 6, Leviathan's cannon is 2 plus d6. No, not 2, 6. 2d3, sorry. So maybe something stronger in this list would be to lose, like, you could lose one Blade Guard Veteran, run a squad of 3, and then run the Leviathan, and then you've got one Dreadnought that's got that lovely 5 up in Invuln save, which would help a lot, I suppose, if you've got the Tech Marine there to repair it. Eradicator and Eradicator Sergeant are the same. Yeah, I think you're accurate on that. Oh yeah, Blade Guard Veteran swords are already master crafted. Yeah, so you could only do that with a Thunderhammer, I guess. Master craft the Thunder. I keep thinking that Blade Guard Veterans are running in Carmite swords. It's because they've got the exact same profile, right? Yeah, I mean, on 9 CB, you can easily afford to spend the 1 CB to take a Leviathan. You've got no way to cancel Overwatch. That might come in against you. That's the one weakness that I'm seeing here. If you come up against something that's like got really, really nasty Overwatch, you just have to take it. But I mean, I guess that's a calculated choice, right? You can't, you know, like maybe Overwatch needs to be on this list now because of Tau. And like, Tau literally will just kill your entire unit on Overwatch. With like 150 point battlesuit unit last week killed like 160 angry guards. So yeah, you know what? I think overall it's a good list. I guess there's a calculated decision to not have anything that can cancel Overwatch, and maybe you could mastercraft something in here, like a melt rifle or a thunderhammer. But maybe starting with that much CP as well is kind of good, and then maybe Forlong Furying your Death Company can potentially give value here. So yeah, I mean, yeah, the only thing I'm going to say is like Redemptors now, with the amount of D3+3 damage that's kicking around in the meta, and having no invulnerable save on the Redemptors is really making me reconsider Redemptors. Like, I completely dropped mine. The list I'm going to play tomorrow has none. And if we roll back 6 months, the core of my army, the core of my armor units in my army was a couple of Redemptors. I guess I'd kind of shifted a little bit towards Relic Contemptors anyway, but yeah, Redemptors with no invulnerable save and random number of shots on the plasma. And I really dislike the onslaught cannon. I'd rather have one shot on a macro plasma than like multiple shots on the cannon, because no one's running these strength 6 -1. They're just not that good. You run into like certain armies and they're just going to do nothing, or say nothing. They'll do like a couple of wounds at best. Okay, Overall, I mean, it's a decent list. This is pretty much what we would see in most Blood Angels. We might see, like, we don't often see Terminators and Blade Guard because it's too, like, slower squads. I tend to prefer to run faster squads. Like, I think, personally, I tend to prefer either running just, like, Terminators or Blade Guards, and then going, like, Death Company, Sanguinary Guard, and, like, one other. So that could be a second Sanguinary Guard, or second Death Company, or Vanguard Veterans. But I think this is totally fine. I do like the Inceptors as a scoring unit. But I guess the Inceptors have kind of been nerfed a bit, right? Before they could do retrieve Necman data, they'd 100% reliably do it. Now they don't. So the Nachman data change kind of hurts Inceptors in a way. I suppose it depends on if you value Nachman data as a secondary. And suppressors and whirlwinds are the only way you're going to really disable Overwatch. So if you want to disable Overwatch, you can do one of them. Suppressors, I guess, are cheaper in terms of points and CP, but the whirlwind can disable Overwatch from anything better, and also it gives you the fight lasses. Pretty nice, right? All right, let's have a look at the next list, and this one is by Sam Milbauer, and this is a Vanguard detachment. And we start with a Chapter Master and Terminator armor, with the Storm Shield and Thunderhammer. Interesting that we see Chapter Master and Terminator armor. We don't see that very often. So Captain Carly and model. Oh, this is going to be a Terminator heavy list. Look at this shit. We got a squad of 5 relics with chain fists. We got a squad of Teleport Homer, Thunderhammer, and Lightning Claws. We got another squad of Thunderhammers, all Thunderhammers. No Teleport Homer this time. We get another squad with Assault Cannon, Power Fist, Terminators with Power Fists, and Storm Bolters. You're going to run these Terminators, Firstborn, with Bolters like this. Just replace the Power Fists with Chain Fists. Chain Fist gives you the bonus damage against vehicles, it gives you more AP, and it's also better against -1 damage enemies, and against most other things it's going to average 2 damage anyway, right? Because that's what the math says. So it's going to just be, if you can afford, like, the Chain Fists don't cost any more points, so I guess if you have the models, Chain Fists on them. Power Fists are fine, just Chain Fists are slightly. We then have a squad of Vanguard Veterans, and I actually kind of like this, how he's put, like, a fast-moving unit, because he's got, like, 4 super slow but durable Terminator units. Probably going to need something fast as well, so a nice fast-moving Lightning Claw squad of Vanguard Veterans. We then have an Outrider detachment, and this has the Primaris Chaplain on the bike, Artisan of Valor, Master of Sanctity, Gift of Foresight, Adamantium Mantle, Litany of Hate, Angel's Exemplar, Canticle of Hate as well. And then we have the Sanguinary Priest, who's the Chief Apothecary, Jump Pack, Selfless Healer. Makes sense to have that Selfless Healer when you get so many Terminators, right? You're going to be bringing back, like, really expensive Terminator models. So that's going to be... Yeah, Inceptors weren't nerfed, it's the secondary they got changed, right? So Inceptors are still good, just their ability to reliably score you points for, like, it was super strong before, and I guess it's not. We then have Infiltrators, and then we have a boatload of Outriders. And I do good, says Sam. You were doing brilliant down to here, Sam, I think. I don't like 450 points of Outriders. They don't have a lot of killing power, in my opinion, at all. Just going to pull up the Outriders data sheet and tell you why I think that. So they've got, like, a twin. This isn't not loading. Alright, well, I know off the top of my head. You get a twin bolt rifle in each one. So I guess you get, like, 12 bolter shots, strength 4, -1 damage. It's average. You're hit on 3s. So against toughness 4 enemies, you basically make them take 4 saves at -1. So if you're talking about a Space Marine that saves on a 4-up, each squad Outrider kills a single Space Marine turn with their bolt rifle. So 450 points to kill 3 Space Marines. Let's just agree that their shooting is beyond bad. Oh, it's not working. So their shooting is beyond bad, and then for their chainsword attacks, get a pro up, but it's nothing good. It's Outriders. Charging gets 3 attacks plus 1 from the chainsword. Regular guys get 2 attacks plus 1 from the chainsword. So basically you get 10 attacks. If you do charge, you get 2 additional attacks on the charge because of your devastated charge, and then that stacks with, like, let's say shock assault. So you get 19 chainsword attacks on the charge. I guess like 22 if you're into Savage Echo's turn. But 19 chainswords. Like a squad of assault intercessors get 21 chainsword attacks. On Mike's saying it's 18. But yeah, so like they do less damage than a squad of assault intercessors. And it is about 10% less damage. And what I find is usually when you charge like stuff with assault intercessors, it's the same thing. Like if you have a squad of assault intercessors, you just charge like other Marines. 21 attacks hitting on 3s, you make 14 hits. You wound on 3s because it's strength 4 with +1 to wound. So you end up with like 10 wounds. So it's only -1, so 2.5 Marines. So 150 point unit. If you shoot and you charge, you could potentially kill like 3 Marines total. So you can kill 60 points for a 150 point unit. And then at that point, they're in combat. They're not able to shoot their bolters anymore. They're only shooting a pistol, I guess. Like, they have a pistol, sure. And they lose all the bonus attacks they get from devastating charge. So I don't like Outriders at all. If this had been like these squads of Vanguard veterans with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields, I'd be like, alright, this is interesting, right? Because it's like 4 squads of Terminators, 4 squads of Lightning Claws Vanguard veterans. You got a bunch of durable units you can pop down on objectives and make charges, and you also got a bunch of fast moving, move around and pop things up. Another great thing with Lightning Claws is we don't get our +1 to wound, we don't charge, right? And so the rerolls of the wounds on the Lightning Claws of the Vanguard veterans, bear in mind you actually have a squad of these Vanguard veterans here for 150 points. They're going to outperform these Outriders like all day long, because if you end up in combat for multiple turns, then the Lightning Claws become so valuable because of the rerolls, all the, if you are attacking, let's say, a toughness, like a toughness 4 enemy, so the Outriders, after that initial turn, they're only wounding on 4s, so you wound 50% of the time. While the Lightning Claws are only wounding on 4s, but you reroll everything, so 75% of the time. And Lightning Claws guys have more attacks anyway, so they have more attacks, they're wounding 75% more times, and they're having additional AP as well. So I don't see Outriders as a good choice. They're a good choice, like if you're a White Scars player or something like that, but I don't think they're a good choice for Blood Angels. The other thing I was thinking, as I look at this list, and I see 4 squads of Terminators, then I assume, especially because 2 squads are Thunderhammers, I assume that you're deep striking these. And if you're deep striking these, then I think you want Canticle of Hate, which you have. And I think you want Icon of the Angel. So you basically get the +2 to charge, and you get the reroll charge. And I actually wonder if maybe you need to just switch this out for a Terminator Chaplain. So that you just drop the Terminators down next to the Chaplain. You invoke the Wiser... It's not even Wise Orator. You invoke Commanding Orator, I think it's Commanding Orator for 2 ZP, make 1 Litany go off. The Litany is obviously Canticle of Hate. Then you're making 7-inch charges with rerolls. 7-inch charge with a reroll is like 82% charge chance or something like that. I was actually looking at that the other night. Dice tell you what the charge chance of that. it is 82%. So if you drop the chaplain down and put like 3 Terminator units around him, then you've basically got like the 3 Terminator squads and the chaplain to charge, and each person has an 82% of making those charges. So on average, you're probably going to get 3 of them in. With a little bit of luck, you'd get all 4 charges. I think that helps a lot. If I'm going to be running Terminators more often, because I think that more 3 wound infantry is going to help right now in the current meta, with like Cow and Custodes just fucking blowing up 2 wound infantry like they don't exist. Like that was they made a big deal about Space Marines getting 2 wounds, and then everything that shoots at us now does at least 2 wounds or D3+3. So I don't know. Having a second wound really hasn't improved Space Marine survivability at all, has it? Maybe that's something to consider. Or maybe you just need to have the Chapter Master and Terminator armor with Icon of the Angel, because the second you pay 1 CP to roll any of those charges, then wouldn't it have been better to just have the Chapter Master give all the Terminator? I guess the only thing to say is that you are a little bit lower on CP with this list, but I mean, that's what you get if you have. You're going to run a Vanguard detachment and a Outrider detachment, and that's going to happen. I actually think you better here. Let's assume, like, everyone's agreed, chat's agreed, that Outriders are way overcosted. So, what about changing this detachment into a patrol detachment? Because if you change this detachment into a patrol detachment, you would not have to pay this 3 CP, you only have to pay 2, because your warlords in the detachment, you can get those refunded. So you'd actually go from 4 CP down here back up to 6. Obviously you wouldn't have that many fast attack slots, but we've already decided those fast attack slots are worthless or bad. I mean, I guess if you don't have the models, sure, why not keep 1 squad Outriders? I can live with you having 1 squad of Outriders, right? But then if it is a patrol detachment, you can have 2 more elite squads. Just to keep it nice and simple, why don't we just put more of those Vanguard veteran squads in, because they're the exact points out. There you go, and you now got 6 CP, so you could totally do my idea of putting Icon of Angel on this guy. That would say you'd actually have, so you'd be 1 CP better off, you'd have 2 more, much more damaging units. Also better units if you ever talk about engaging all fronts. That's another big weakness with Outriders now, right? You lose a single Outrider and you no longer have speed in the squad. You're not getting engaging all fronts if that is the secondary you're picking, whereas Vanguard Veterans, you can 2 Vanguard Veterans, you're still getting engaging all fronts. I remember seeing a couple of units in action against Dark Elder, and I can only think it was wasted. My big problem is I struggle with keeping Sangre Guard alive after a killed initial target. You fellas get any tips for that? The amount of times they're targeted by damage to weapons, and I lose half or more of the squad after they get in, is infuriating me. Are they an expensive trade unit or not seeing that? Soluble, that's exactly what happens with Sangre Guard, I find. So in the GT that I was at, there was a guy that ran Tempest Scions, and I beat it. Me and him were 3-0. We were both 3-0. And I beat him, so I was one of only 2 players at that GT to 4-0. And what I did was, I made like a good... I had my Sangre Guard like hidden behind an objective, and in turn 1 I used that, the Heroic Intervention, so I could heroically intervene onto the objective and kill his guys with the Sangre Guard. In turn 2, I jumped the Sangre Guard to another objective, deleted all the units on it. He then proceeded to drop down about, I want to say it was like 6 squads of Tempest Scions, all armed with plasma guns, and just all 9 inches away from the Sangre Guard. He also dropped down some with Melta-Guns as well, but the Sangre Guard just evaporated. I think I lost the whole squad. I think it was 8 or 9 guys, and I think my Chapter Master took a bunch of damage as well. There's no counter for that, right? Because there was no way that I could have screened the Sangre Guard. I needed to push forward onto the objective. And yeah, in far too many games, Sangre Guard aren't a survivable unit. Just throw that out there. They're just a Marine with +1 on their armor save, right? And regular Marines don't survive very well anyway. So a Sangre Guard's just a regular Marine with +1 on their armor save. If you can consolidate into cover and give them essentially the additional +1, that can help. You can give them a invulnerable save through like Psychic Fortress or Shield of Sanguinius. That can help. Having a Sangre Priest next to them can help a tiny bit, but I don't like 6-up shrug that they get. It doesn't feel that reliable. It doesn't keep them alive all that well. I have lost my Sangre Guard so many times to exactly what you mentioned. It just happens. It happens in tournament games. It definitely happens in like high level games where players know how much damage Sangre Guard can do. That's why I don't recommend going all in with one squad of Sangre Guard. If you only have one squad of Sangre Guard and you're expecting them to turn the game or win the game for you, then if you lose them, it can be a huge, big problem. So, I think that, in some ways, that's why Vanguard veterans are strong. Like, some people like Vanguard veterans. In my current list, I have Sangre Guard and Vanguard veterans, but I definitely went through a phase recently where I was doing, I was relying too heavily on that one squad of Sangre Guard, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's, as you say, it's too easy for the Sangre Guard to get in, mop up an enemy unit, and then be left exposed. I'm not dropping my Sangre Guard. I'm going to keep them 100%. I think they're a very strong unit. I just think they don't survive. They're glass cannons they're just total glass cannons. But like, we have that problem at the moment in the current meta, right? Like, generally Marines, 2-wound Marines are very easy to kill. There's a lot of things that kill 2-wound Marines very, very effectively. So, there's a lot of things now. That can kill 3-wound Marines as well, but yeah, I think like the cost of Sangre Guard at 32 points per model is harsh. I said that when they put them up from 30 to 32. I felt like that was harsh. And I guess they put that up because they thought their offense was really good, but when they put that up, -1 damage wasn't really in the meta at all. Like, I think Death Guard were maybe kicking around, but like you weren't seeing, like orcs. If you're not hitting them with toughness 8, they're -1 damage. We weren't seeing we weren't seeing a lot of Custodes players anyway, but I guess Custodes Dreadnoughts, Wraithblades now for Eldar. There's a lot of -1 damage. Morgan Val in her battle suits, half damage. Those things weren't in the meta when they put Sangre Guard from 30 to 32 points. So, yeah, I guess it's just an evolution. Anyway, let me get back to scoring this list. So we made some improvements, but I guess based on what we saw with the list then, OBSEC is kind of low because we just have that one infiltrator choice. I guess it's good that it is infiltrators, but it's kind of low. Anti-Horde, I want to say this list has very little firepower. We got a couple of Stormbolters, 2 squads of Stormbolters. That's it, really. And I guess your Outriders, but we decided that Outriders kill anything, so maybe 7.5. 3 damage weapons in the list then would be 5 Chain Fists, 3 more Thunderhammers, another Thunderhammer, then 5 more Thunderhammers, so 12. The Chaplain has Mantra Strength, so 13. So there was 13 3 damage weapons, so that's not too bad. I really think with this much, Terminators aren't going to be walking across the board, they're going to be deep striking. Going to really want to be able to reliably, or at least improve the chance of getting. You have Canticle of Hate, no Icon of the Angel, so I'm going to give you an 8.5. I really think you want Icon of the Angel there. I also think your mobility is kind of a little bit all over the place. The Terminators are obviously very slow. So again, it's going to come down to charges, and if you're going to have to make like 4 charges with Terminator on a 7, which you can't do, I really think you there, and then we get no way to cancel Overwatch. We get no fight lasts. We get no denies. Kind of lack units for actions. We have a good number of 3 damage weapons. Kind of lack CP before we made my changes as well, and then protection against mortal wounds was a little bit, I guess, from the Sanguinary Priest. And I guess the good thing here is the Sanguinary Priest can bring back 43-point model Terminators every turn, so that adds a bit of durability. But overall, I think specializing 6. I think if you make the changes that I recommended, where you lose some of the Outriders for more Vanguard veterans, you pick up icon control, you change out this detachment CP, you can maybe get a couple more points onto your score here. Maybe up to like a 38, Sam. But this very much is a pure melee army, and I think pure melee armies are really difficult to run at the moment. Yeah, I think they're just going to be. They are difficult to run anyway, even more so in the current meta. I feel like we're glass cannons who've had the cannons downgraded due to the amount of damage reduction there are in our best weapon damage weapon. I think that would be accurate to say Cyable. I think the -1 in melee helps Sangreguard a tiny bit. I think an invulnerable save would be much better. I would trade out their -1 pet in melee for a 5-up any day of the week, because usually what happens with like Sangreguard is, like you said, you jump them in to kill a priority target. So they kill a priority target, maybe just, and then there's something else there that can now fight them back. And usually the thing that can fight them back, in my case, it'll be something like Morganval, or it'll be like a Demon Prince of Nurgle or something. Usually like that'll be hitting on 2s with rerolling 1s anyway. So the -1 to hit usually doesn't feel that strong. And then, like if it's a Demon Prince or something, hitting them with like a 2 damage -4 sword and you can only save on a 6, I feel like a 5-up in Vun would feel stronger. But maybe that's just a perception. Any suggestions on how to use an impulsor transport? What would you stick in it? Probably Blade Guard Veterans is the best choice for an impulsor. But, we saw a list a few weeks ago, a Blood Angels list finished 6 2 squads of Blade Guard inside 2 different impulsors. And I did a video on the channel about that. So that would be an option. The only other thing I can potentially think of putting in an impulsor that I've heard people talk about, but I haven't done it myself, is Hellblasters. Because you can obviously disembark from the impulsor and shoot. The thing I don't like about Hellblasters is they can kill themselves if you want to do the overcharge, which is always a problem. And they're kind of expensive. Like, again, they're like 33 points per model, a Hellblaster. So they're even more expensive than a Sangreguard, and they're even less survivable, right? They're just, again, it's just a 2-1 Marine and a 3-up save. And if this edition of the last 6 months has shown us anything, in the 41st millennium, it's very easy to kill 2-1 Marines with a 3-up save. So Hellblasters for me. I mean, like, people talk. I keep hearing rumors about the Space Marine 2.0 Codex. Like, how are they fixing it? Like, how can you fix Space Marines? Can they be toughness 5? Like, that fixed it? I honestly don't know how they can fix Space. I also heard an interesting suggestion that they should make tactical Marines go back to 1 wound and drop their points to like 13 or 14 points, because 2 wounds that they have doesn't really add anything to survivability. So just make them like a cheap troop choice that we could actually have, because like a lot of other armies have like a cheap troop choice. And I was like, do you know what, that actually sounds interesting. But yeah, I actually don't know how they fix Space Marine. Yeah, I guess we'll see. See if we actually do the 2.0. But anyway, Sam, it's a little bit of a confused list, I think. I'd make some changes to it for sure. Yeah, we're gonna try and play Eldar on the. So I'm playing. I think I'm playing Snakebite Orcs. Snakebite Orcs tomorrow. Eldar the week after, and then the Drukhari player I've been trying to get on the channel for a while got back to me, so might actually get a game on the channel against Drukhari at the end of the month, which would be nice because my experience playing Drukhari is pretty limited. I've played them 3 times this last year, and it was all at tournaments. Okay, let's have a look at Robbie Murdoch's list. Is the last list for tonight. I only play amongst friends, not competitively or tournament. Any feedback would be appreciated for someone just starting out Blood Angels list. 5++ army wide, says Terrence. I think that's what Black Templars got, right? And I think they're doing I think Black Templars are probably the best Marines in terms of they're doing the best out of Marines in the current meta. I think. I'm not really a huge Black Templars person, so I don't know what they're running to make that work. But maybe I need to look into that. Anyway, let's have a look at this Blood Angel list. 8 CP battalion. Captain of the Bike, Artisan of War, Adamantium Mantle. Angel's Artifice here is an interesting choice, giving +1/+1 wound. And the Infernal Pistol and Thunderhammer. This is kind of this was an older build I was running. Have a look at have a look at Armor Indomitus. And +1 toughness is nice because it makes your Chapter Master T6. I guess if you're playing Death Guard a lot, that makes them even 5 when they have the -1. From their aura, what's in Death Guard Contagion. But I think the better option is Armor Indomitus, allowing you once per game basically to do an Angel Sacrifice and then put your 3-up invulnerable save on. We have a Primaris Librarian, Might of Heroes, Null Zone, and Psychic Fortress, Chief Librarian, and Psychic Master. For the most part, this is all good. I like your power choices. I use all these powers in a tournament when I played a Librarian. I think you're better running a Firstborn Librarian with a jump pack. If you want to use Null Zone effectively, the additional move, and remember you can advance and still cast Psychic powers, so that potentially means that you have a minimum of 14 inches. Null Zone is an aura of 6, which can guarantee to Null Zone something 20 inches away if you have a Firstborn Librarian with a jump pack. He is going to cost you 20 more points than the Primaris one, but I think it's probably worth it. We then have the Sanguinary Priest, who is the Selfless Healer, Chief Apothecary. Stuff. We're then running 4 squads of Incursors, interesting, and a squad of Assault Intercessors. I'd say it's too many troop choices. Troops tend to be not that good in combat, right? Black Templar were rated first by the best Marines this week by the Art of War, because it's the newest book, of course. Yeah, I mean, I guess new books tend to be the strongest, right? Maybe this is too many Incursors. I mean, I do like Incursors. It gives you a lot of map control. I guess we'll see what else we got. We got 5 Blade Guard Veterans. We get 2 Redemptors. And this list was submitted using gold points, so have gone up 10 points by now. So they're up to 195 points. We then have 2 squads of 5 Sanguinary Guard, all with swords. And I think right now I would try and mix swords and axes, because there's a lot of toughness 5 stuff appearing in the meta. There's maybe even toughness 6 stuff you have to come up against, like Wraith Seers. No, not Wraith Seers. Wraith Blades from Eldar. So if you have axes, I would mix the squads. I generally don't like doing one squad, all axes, one squad swords, because that makes it even more difficult to deploy and stuff. So I like to mix the squads, so you can do that. And then we've got 3 attack bites with multi-metas. Also, none of the people I play have anything that deep strikes, so I use Incursors to sit on objectives and read Bacteria's data. I don't like your Sanguinary Guard only being 5. I think that they can bounce off the enemies as a 5. So I'd probably I'd lose 1 squad of Incursors, or the squad of Assault Intercessors, and probably just make it a 7 and a 6. Still don't particularly like the 6, but if you're going to go double Sangre Guard, a 7 and a 6 makes me feel a lot more confident than a 5 and a 5. Like I said, the Jump Pack Librarian would actually give you some value here. I feel like you do not have enough damage weapons. You get the 3 multi-metas here, and putting them in a single squad is risky. Even with the Sangre Priest and then Psychic Fortress, which you can do, it's still kind of risky, I guess. Something you could do is maybe a squad of 2 and a squad of 1. I guess you're hoping that the opponent can't kill all 3 bikes in a single turn, and then you can like heal 1 and res 1. That is valid, but like you're hoping a lot. If you're playing casually, maybe you're fine. If you're playing against like high tournament lists, then you're probably going to lose your entire squad of bikes. You're not going to be able to res any of them. At that point, you'd be better like setting them as 1, or if you had the right detachment. Bikes. You know, Sangre Guard are good, but they suffer up against -1 damage enemies. Blade Guard Veterans are good as well, but they suffer up against -1 damage enemies. So you've got your Chapter Master with the Infernal Pistol and the Thunderhammer, the Primaris Librarian with Sword. So that gives you 3. Then the 3 multi-metas and the 2 Dreadnoughts. So you kind of have like 10 3 damage weapons. 3 damage or more. Excuse me. And 6 months ago, I'd have said 10 3 damage weapons is fine. That's a good number to aim for. Now, I really recommend you probably need 15 3 damage or more weapons. If you don't have that many, come up against something that's got a lot of -1 damage potential, then you can really be hurting again. And I guess that's the big drawback with like Sangre Guard and Blade Guard Veterans. They are all 2 damage, and it's something to be aware of. Like if you bring that into a tournament and you run into like Death Guard or something, you're gonna have a pretty bad day, because the drop off in damage against those, like if you play this list against Death Guard player smart, has probably 3 Plague Burst Crawlers. He does everything he can to kill your attack bikes in turn 1. Then you do not have enough damage to punch through like even his infantry and stuff. I would actually say that I've seen some Blood Angels lists be absolutely turned into potentially 1. You could probably fix this though, right? Like lose one of the squads of Sangre Guard, replace with Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws. That could be a totally valid option. Or replace with some with Thunderhammers and Lightning Claws. Probably lose some of these troops. Troops don't really do much killing in my experience. You could probably lose 2 squads of troops and beef out some of these other squads. Might even be better to run 2 Cat Bite squads. 2 multi-metas and 2 multi-metas as opposed to 1 squad of 3. I think in the hands of a very good player, they'll be a nightmare. Yeah, I mean, like, we haven't covered Harlequins, but I think they're going to be very difficult to play against. I played against a very good Elder player. Oh, sorry, played by an Elder player. They're unbeatable by Blood Angels. Yeah, I guess in some ways that's a little bit like how Custodes and Tau felt, right? Multi-metas can't do anything into Plague Burst Crawlers in general. Yeah, I mean, they're not great, are they? Even in half range, they can do something. But like a single attack bike, Plague Burst Crawlers are T8 as well. So like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you reserved these, you brought them all in at half range of a Plague Burst Crawler, you get 6 shots, you'd make 4 hits, get 2 wounds. They're going to save one of them probably. So a 6-man squad like this, 180-point squad like this, does incidental damage against a Plague Burst Crawler. Even if you roll a 6 on the damage roll, do 7 damage. Thank you, Tenafrag. Tenafrag? I hope I'm saying that. So, yeah, this list would struggle against Death Guard, I think, a lot. You'd have to be very tactical with these Redemptor Dragons. But you do have the Psychic Fortress, you do have the Null Zone, which would help. I dislike the amount of So I obviously went to a couple of tournaments last year, and I changed my list after each tournament. The first tournament I went to, I was running Lightning Claw Vanguard Veterans, Blade Guard Veterans, and Sanguine Guard. And the second tournament I went to, I was running Terminators with Chain Fists, Sanguine Guard, and Blade Guard Veterans as like my three main close combat units. And then after that tournament, I actually changed my list to run double squads of Sanguine Guard because I felt like I put too much emphasis on that one squad of Sanguine Guard. I dropped a Dreadnought. I was running 3 Dreadnoughts in that, and put 2 squads of Sanguine Guard in there. But the thing that I found was, like, in some situations, Sanguine Guard are not good. I lost against Brett's Snakebite Orcs because Sanguine Guard are like Strength 6 with the axes. So they do like no damage against those Snakebite Orcs, those orcs that are -1 damage across the entire board. I ignore Plague Burst Crawlers because they're prohibitive to kill. Yeah, I mean, Plague Burst Crawlers, sometimes you just have to ignore them. They're not easy for us to kill. Is the painting competition going on? It is. You've got until about Tuesday to enter. I'm going to be posting up probably. I've had a really busy weekend. I'll probably post up like tomorrow or Tuesday. You've got until middle of the week. Painting competition's going. Fetid bloat drones are worse than Plague Burst Crawlers. Those things can do work. Yeah, I mean, the fetid bloat drones get a ridiculous amount of -2 damage too. Power Fists on the Sanguine Guard. I don't mind running like a single Power Fist in the Sanguine Guard, like one, because it will help you up against like those Snakebite Orcs that are the perfect example, or anything that's Ramshackle, which are other orcs, not Snakebite ones. I think the Snakebite ones are everything has basically Ramshackle. But I don't mind running a single. If you're going to run 2 squads of Sanguine Guard, then I would run like a single Power Fist in both squads. But I think you're much better now taking 1 squad of Sanguine Guard and 1 squad of something. Be it Death Company with Thunderhammers, or be it Vanguard Veterans with Thunderhammers, or be it maybe like Firstborn Terminator Thunderhammers, or Chain. There's both of those. But yeah, how many entries have we had so far? Maybe like 40. Quite a lot. Okay, so overall, he said he was a newer player. He said he was casual. So overall, I think the list is fine. I think I've made a bunch of suggestions to prove this. 5 troop choices at the moment, so I guess like for OBSEC, we'll maybe give him a 9.5. That's a lot of OBSEC. Anti-Horde infantry, we have a little bit, like the double Redemptor, all the Sanguine Guard shots, a little bit of bolter fire from the attack bites, a little bit of bolter fire from the Scepters. I guess anti-Horde infantry is maybe fine enough. 8, maybe 8. Because we only have 10 3 damage weapons, I'm going to say it's an 8.5 for anti-vehicle monster. Mobility wise, I mean, he's got a bunch of mobility in that most of your troops can guerrilla tactics. These 3 units aren't mobile, but like pretty much everything else is. So again, maybe like an 8. And don't have a way to shut off Overwatch. Don't have a fight last. We do have some denies. 2 because he's a Chief Librarian. We do have loads of units for actions. Kind of lacking on 3 damage weapons. We've got a good number of CP to start with. And we do have protection from mortal wounds on infantry, I guess. Sanguine Priest, and we're starting on 8 CP. So I'm going to say it's like an 8 as well. So it's not bad. I think it could be made better with a couple less troop choices. Maybe 1 squad of Vanguard Veterans instead of Sanguine Guard. And maybe there's a situation here where we could mastercraft something. Or maybe there's a like a Icon of the Angel or a Quake Bolt or something. Or maybe even take the we haven't seen it for a little while, but the Teeth of Terror on the Sangre Priest is a legitimate good upgrade for the Sangre Priest, right? Because the Sangre Priest should never really be fighting or in combat unless you're confident you're winning the game, and if you're confident you're winning the game, then Teeth of Terror gives them 8 attacks, -2 damage. I think that's at strength 5, so with +1 to wound, you'd be hitting infantry on 2s, you'd be wounding them on 2s. One of the tournament winning lists that we actually saw, or I think it was Jack Harpster's list actually, that Teeth of Terror on the Sangre Priest. And it's a decent upgrade to give them 8 attacks hitting on 2s, right? Yeah. We've actually covered the new Eldar book on the Grotz channel. That'll be coming out on Thursday night. So the new Eldar book looks really scary as well. It's I've been saying for like a year now, it's a tough time to be a Blood Angels player. It just seems like they're just making it. I don't know what they're gonna do to make to balance out like Marines and stuff in the new edition, but they're gonna have to do something. But yeah, I don't think it's fixed for them. It feels like a lot of the new stuff has had. It felt like at the start of the edition they were trying to make everything a bit more tighter, a little bit more balanced, and they've just gone so far away from that. Eldar are apparently stronger than Tau. They are the single strongest codex to date. Yeah. Yeah, they have a lot of neat tricks, don't they? They can get a 6-up in Van if you pick one of the forget what it's called, but there is like a faction, an Eldar. I guess it's like your craft roll, David. Pick to give them a 6-up in Van, and then with those new like miracle dice, I think they're called like Strands of Fate. You can potentially use miracle dice, I guess, or Strands of Fate dice to automatically pass those saves on 6s as well. So Eldar have some really nice tricks now, and they also have a way of like making it more reliable to charge as well with the Strands of Fate. Necrons and Marines got dialed back from 8.5. Yeah, they did. They really did get dialed back, which I was okay with at the time because I was expecting everybody to get dialed back into a bit more of a balanced meta, but they just threw D3+3 at all the other armies, and we threw -1 damage and more survivableness at everything, and then didn't give us a whole of stratagems. Oh well, I mean, you got to play with what you're given, I guess, and what we're given at the moment is tough. I guess there's potentially a balanced slate coming out soon, so I guess every 3 months there'll be a balanced slate. And then there is this big rumor of new Space Marine models this year. So, I mean, Robbie's list I think is okay. I think that, again, there could be some change made for it. And if anyone's found a unit that I'm not using that I think really needs to be looked at, like a sleeper unit that's helping you win games right now, then let me know in the comments below, and we'll do some videos on it. My strategy for... I did see the fake rumor. I'm glad that I don't cover the newest stuff the day it comes out. I don't know. I mean, like, I saw the post on Reddit comparing Trajan Valoris to Dante, and how Valoris has like 10 more rules than Dante, and he's 5 less points. Like, if Trajan Valoris is balanced at like 160 points, then Dante needs to be like 120, right? Like, it just seems... Infiltrators, yeah, I mean, infiltrators are going to be definitely useful against... They can basically shut down that webway gate, right? But infiltrators don't do any damage. That's the problem with them, I find. So, I mean, you take them to protect an area of the map, but you give up, like, sort of positive damage. Yeah. So, that's about it for this week. You know, as soon as we know that we're getting some new units, most people would agree that Valoris isn't balanced. I mean, he's an auto-include if you've ever heard of an auto-include. Like, anyone that's not auto-including him, I mean, he's so strong, you just run him up the middle of the board and just, you know, just be like, yeah, if you want to shoot me, go for it. Good luck, you know. Storm bolters are actually decent versus all the toughness. And claws are great, beats everything. Yeah, I mean, Relic Terminators, huh? Relic Terminators with Lightning Claws and Combi Bolters. They're not a bad choice, yeah. I mean, in the current meta, they're really not a bad choice. Voidsman Arm are great for a backfield objective. Yeah, we haven't seen Voidsman Arms. I don't know if many people know about Voidsman Arms. The problem with Voidsman Arms, Terrence, is that you're gonna have to proxy the models, right? Because like it's impossible to buy that set anymore. So if you want to do Voidsman Arms, you need to proxy something. I was actually thinking of proxying some Tempest Scions. So if you painted Tempest Scions Blood Angels, probably can't spell Scions. Yeah, look, I've already been looking at them. I was thinking maybe these could be pretty good proxy for Voidsman Arms. I mean, there's other things you could do. I guess you could use that Krieg kill team, right? That could be a. Am I spelling that right? Yeah, I mean that would probably be cheaper. You could. I don't know. It's not. I know that kill team's on the Forge World website as well because of Forge World. Oh, they've moved. Oh, they got a more expensive version of it. Why are these guys 50? Oh right, they've made like a fine cast version of them. Why the fuck would anyone want the fine cast version of them over the plastic? I have no idea, but there is a fine cast version of them apparently. What's in my cart on Games Workshop? I think it's probably still that Bastion that I never bought. Yeah, look, it's the Bastion. I never quite never quite thought about Veteran Guardsmen or Krieg kill team. Oh, and prices went up this week. Yeah, I think that the regular Krieg kill team is 35. It's not sure. Yeah, I mean, Voidsman Armor is something you could do. It might be interesting. Anyway, I think that kind of wraps us up for tonight. And yeah, maybe we. The problem, like, I would do a video on Voidsman Arms. The problem is you could 3D print them as well. Yeah, I mean, the problem is we're getting hold of them all. But I mean, in terms of like holding an objective, keeping it cheap, scoring engaging all fronts, potentially doing Nachman data, they're not a bad choice. They do obviously take up your Imperium slot, or your agents of the Imperium slot, but it's something that. Alright, but yeah, tomorrow night, Ramshackle, Snakebite Orcs. The stream is up. We should be back. Assuming I don't have a migraine from all hell tomorrow, which was what happened last week. I'm sure it'll be fun. So, and then the week after that, we'll get New Eldar on the channel. I have no idea how we'll do against New Eldar, because I've seen some of their rules, the Wraith Blades, the Gate, the support weapons, it's all super fucking nasty. And then maybe after that we'll try and get the Harlequins. So have a good rest of your weekend, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out tonight. Hope you enjoyed the show. Reziel's testing the Calidus. You know what? I don't own a Calidus Assassin. I did like the Calexis while I used it. I used it in a few different games, and I felt like it was reasonably okay. So, assassin meta. I'm thinking I might. Another thing that we heard is like Inquisitors, and that's probably what I'm going to look at next. Maybe that's what I need to make a video about. How using a cheap Inquisitor to score yourself 15 points taking psychic interrogation, right? Because we can. It means going up to 4 characters, but engaging all fronts is so much harder to score, and retrieve Nat 1 data is so much harder to score. So maybe just including like a 65-point Inquisitor score you points, because points wins prizes, right? Okay, well, and I'm actually going to run 2 Psychers tomorrow night. So we're going to run 2 Psychers, Mephiston plus a regular Psyker, and my regular Psyker is in the game mainly. I think he's just a Librarian in Terminate Armor. He's just going to do Psychic Mastery every turn. Captain hanging out with Eliminators for reroll 1s, and Helix on Critters so they can roll any. I mean, I guess I just don't think Eliminators do enough damage. The lack of AP on their guns and the lack of AP in combat falls is why I don't like Critters. I mean, maybe I could get on board with that with cursors. But do you know what? The other thing I was thinking, like, I like Eliminators a lot. Eliminators are strong, but one of the strengths of Eliminators is when they're in cover, they get that +2 to their save. If you're playing against Tau, they'll be able to just ignore that, right? And that'll, like, totally screw Eliminators. Like, are Eliminators even viable anymore with Tau in the meta with those auto Eliminators? Camel Click. Each time while it receives the benefit cover, add 1 to any armor save made against that attack. Violet is receiving the benefits of cover. So, because the Tau target lock says you cannot get the cover save, so Eliminators will just die. Like, they're just 2-1 Marines, and the Tau will be hitting them from indirect fire, and they'll be saving on 4s. They're just gonna die. They're just gonna die so quick. If they're within 18 inches, they'll only be saving on 5s. So, like a month ago, one of the strongest tactics we probably had was Eliminators in cover because they're on a 1-up save. Well, I mean, the Tau just completely ignore that. So yeah, oh, it's a fucking hard time to be a Marine player, guys. We get to hang tough. As soon as we know about the new Marine rules, we'll play them. In the meantime, keep it here, and we'll do the best we can. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. I appreciate you watching. I'm gonna try and get the victory tomorrow night against the Snakebite. So I hope some of you guys will hang out for that. Chris runs 3 squads of Eliminators. Yeah, I mean, previously, before Tau, I'd have said that's great. Now I'd be like, oh shit, Chris, that's like they're just gonna die. Oh, it's so tough. Marine units aren't priced to be glass cannons. Yeah, and we very much are, aren't we? Especially Sangre Guard, and yeah, I don't know how they're gonna balance Marine. They gotta do something. I don't know how they're gonna fix. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the weekend, guys. See you tomorrow. Glad Army is strong.